Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and yet again I am here bringing you another stellar Kickstarter indie book project for you to sink your teeth in. Joining me, helping me to do that, is writer-creator Katie. How you doing? This
Hi.
is Katie Cunningham. How's it going?
It's going okay. I mentioned to you previously I have COVID right now, so that's an experience that we're all going through. But I'm okay. Yeah.
Good. Well done. For everyone who's listening, by all means, feel free to pause this and go and get a mask. If you've had your shots, you're all good.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm being very inconsiderate showing up at all. It's unsafe.
Yeah, thank God. I don't think there was ever any guidelines for podcasts, was there? Let's see, we're 2 meters apart. Yes, tick, that one's done. Yeah, cool, excellent. Yeah. It's one of those crazy things, isn't it? It's like because it's not on the news all the time, people think it's over. But
Yeah. I've heard loads of people have it just now. Like it's still happening. Yeah.
As parties get bigger and Barbies and all that sort of stuff, I'm doing a charity event in about 3-4 weeks. I'm like, I'm kind of dreading it. Anyway, enough doom and gloom. Right, we're here to talk to you about your book, which is Rotten Under the Snow, and it's from Time Bomb Comics. So before we have a look at the video on the book, help us out, Katie. How did you get into comic books?
I used to write prose stuff. I still write some prose stuff, but honestly, I think comics are, I sort of got into comics when I was at university, and I was like, I'd been a bit leery about them, but I was suddenly like, oh wow, these are really cool, and it seems like a really fun thing to be involved in, and I really like the collaborative aspect of them. I think that because artists can make writing look so much better than it actually is, which is a clever trick. So yeah, it's good to be a comic writer because you get wonderfully talented people making your work look, very impressive. I pitched Rotten Under the Snow to Steve Tanner, Time Bomb's publisher, at a Comic-Con, and he said it sounded like their sort of thing, and so yeah, I sort of went from there. It's pretty boring, really. I mean, I wasn't like, I didn't pull a magic sword from the stone or anything, which is how I assume most people do get into comics. So yeah.
I've been pulling swords out of stones, and I've kissed loads of frogs. It's not worked for me, I've got to tell you that. So when you said you were a bit leery of the whole thing back in the day, what sort of stuff were you kind of avoiding, and what were the books that actually managed to draw you into this fantastic medium?
Well, honestly, so this is me being very honest about this, but
Go for it.
My parents are English teachers, and so I was raised in a very literary, snobby household where, we did not look upon the comics because they were dirty. So, they didn't have enough words. But I always thought they were really cool. It was just sort of not really something that we had around the house or anything, which I know is sort of a part of how a lot of people get into comics. Like their dad has comics, their mum has comics.
Yeah.
But then, I sort of started reading them when I went to university, and I met people who liked them, and sort of I got into them from there, via the mainstream stuff. In particular, I really liked the Stephanie Brown Batgirl run. That was like my favorite.
Oh, you are my kindred spirit. You are my comic guru. I love that book.
It's so good. It's
Brian
so good.
Q.
Yeah.
Miller nailed it. I can't believe when the Babs Tarr stuff came out and they said, "Oh, we're making Batgirl hopeful and fun." I was like, "You cancelled that! You cancelled that book, man!"
Yeah, you cancel it so you can make it darker. You can't. Anyway, yeah, I love that book. That is like, I will, I try to be open-minded about things, but if anyone says that, that's not the best Batgirl run, I will fight them. So,
you and me, Katie, it's you and me. All right. People ask me who my favorite Batgirl is. Steph Brown. People ask me who my favorite Robin is. still Steph Brown.
Yes,
Yes.
she's so good. Oh, yeah, I love her. Yeah, no.
She's the thing that made the Robin book so interesting for so long.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Tim
like,
Drake's boring, and he's like, oh,
it's a bit boring. Yeah, I have a friend who loves Tim Drake, and I'm just like, I feel all the time like, I just want to sort of like be like, yeah, but Steph is right there, and
oh yeah,
like
definitely.
she's right there.
Are you reading the new Batgirls book?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I think the start was a bit like they were trying to find the tone, but now it's really settled into itself, and I really like the last issue.
Yes.
So I'm,
agreed.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. I think the art's a little bit off the wall when you first open it up.
Yeah. Like,
you're like,
whoa. I think that's cool. Like, I think it's probably going to get new readers in again. Like, especially like younger girls and stuff, which is cool. But like, I really like the last couple of issues, and I hope that it keeps going for a while because I think it's a really interesting book at this point. Yeah.
Do you think, with all the focus, then we've segued a little bit. We'll get back. I promise. Do you think with the focus that DC has on cultivating the LGBTQ plus relationships, do you think that Steph and Cass?
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, been shipping them for ages. Yeah.
I'm with you on this. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's funny because I also ship Carol Danvers and Spider Woman. I think
that's a good ship. They're good.
I don't understand why they're not together. It's
Yeah.
I don't get it. But hey ho. Anyway, back to you.
Yes.
Good shout on the Batgirl book, definitely. So I mean, that's it. To go from Batgirl and Steph Brown, as fantastic as she is, to go to something that's based partly on history, partly on horror, and then you throw in some pulp like your book. That's quite a jump. It has to be said.
I mean, I think that like one of the cool things about comics is that they can sort of span genres in a way that like literary stuff, like it really can't, because it's sort of it's all got to be, comics are so much more like, there's so much more space for interpretation in comics in a weird way, and for things to sort of move, because it's like, the art carries so much of it. And honestly, like, I mean, just from a personal perspective, I've always been a really big fan of horror, and I approach, this story and most of the stuff I write as horror stories primarily. Like, I think that this is also like sort of a pulpy war story, which is obviously very much time bomb sort of ballpark. But I like, I'm not particularly interested in war stories unless there's like, body horror alien stuff also going on. So, that's sort of what I bring to the table, I guess. Like,
Excellent.
Yeah, barbed wire underneath people's skin. That's what gets me.
We were going on so nice.
It was always going to be mentioned.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god. All right, let's have a quick look at the Time Bomb video on the Kickstarter page. We'll add the book. There we go. That's that. Let's have a look at the video. Should be all nice and large now. Perfect. Here we go. Turn down your volume, kids. This is a loud one. And there you go. Wow, that's really a lot going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, really putting the Russia of it all at the forefront.
Yeah, admittedly, it's cool. So, it's a historical in places, correct?
Yes. I mean, this is like, another thing that makes writing easier. But like, like rooting things in history gives you like a lot of detail you can put in, which means that like it makes it seem again better than it actually is, which is a useful trick.
See, I think you're massively underselling yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, having historical relevance is a good call, because it gives it that kind of gives the book a kind of real world thing. It's kind of like, this is what could have happened, because none of us were there to tell.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so it leaves it open to interpretation, right? I mean, I wasn't there. Were you there? Yeah, exactly.
I might have been.
You should have been. Yeah? This is like a documentary, not a comic book. I'm joking. Should we have a look at the book? See what we think?
Yeah, go for it.
There we go. Lovely cover, by the way. I love the abstractness of the character's face here. Not a lot of detail, but you get enough going on.
Yeah,
I was really impressed with that.
One of the aim here was to sort of mirror like propaganda posters, sort of, and I think that comes across like particularly, the layers of colors and stuff too. It all feels very sort of like printed and stuck on a wall,
with the hammer and sickle in there in the blurb there. Cool, excellent. So let's come to nice black page. That's cool, and we'll get there eventually. Well done. So there you are, right at the top. Brilliant. Artist is Mike Bogdanovich. Have I said it correctly?
I hope so, because that's how I say it. And
Good.
Yeah.
That's fine. Colors by Danielle. Is it Wiebe?
Wiebe, I think.
Wiebe?
I think it's German. Yeah, she's great. I actually I do another comic with her called Space Banshee Exorcist, which you can read in Brawler, which is sort of an ongoing time bomb anthology thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, I look forward to that. And then Letters by Aaron Rackley. You made me. I was quite impressed. You mentioned about the war element, because I think early doors, the lettering reminded me. I don't know if you remember. Why is that not working? Let's try it a different way. Give me 2 seconds on this.
No problem.
The lettering reminded me a little bit of. Technical heebie-jeebies. What's going on? Let's. I tell you what. Let's just start that bit again, shall we? Should we start that bit again?
Let's start that bit again. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. All live, folks. All live, all the time. I know what happened with it. That's fine. So the letters kind of reminded me. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the old Commando comics you used to get in the UK?
Yes, yeah. I've seen those around. Yeah.
Yeah, the lettering reminded me of that so much. It was really quite. I was like, oh, look at that! And then, of course, you mentioned in the opening bit there about the art being and the story being war elemented wise, and I thought, oh yeah, I can actually see that now. Cool. Look at that. We're back.
Maybe I've given your computer COVID.
Oh, don't say that. Oh, I don't know what's going on. All right. Okay, so we can have a look at the art there. This is the main character, correct?
Yes, Dajana.
She is a Russian pilot, is that right? No, German.
Yeah, ex-pilot. She's her backstory is that she was a night witch, which is I feel like they're pretty well known in the internet at this point. These Russian female pilots who flew with sort of crappy old planes and would have to dive bomb the Nazi unit and sort of like hand drop bombs out of their planes. That was all very low tech stuff because they didn't have any funding. So yeah, which is such. I mean, this story does not get into their history enough, but it should be. It feels like such a sort of jumping off point for like stories. Which is underselling the like actual struggle against Nazism, which they did, but it's very in a very superficial way, it's very cool. So yeah.
So which do you take the priority of this then? Is it the witches element, or is it the siege of Leningrad? Is it the historical element? Which one kind of was the hook that pulled you in?
I mean, sort of like the idea of making her sort of the idea of like having a traumatized soldier is sort of like the central thing of what's going on in the comic, and I thought that making her something as specific as one of them would like give a lot of sort of would give sort of a real feeling and a very sort of like specific feeling to her backstory. And also like the Siege of Leningrad stuff. The Siege of Leningrad, was this this event that went on for ages and was, you know, hugely traumatic to everyone involved, and saw so many civilians being involved in warfare. So like I don't think that like I really get into the depths of like what was going on there either. So I guess I sort of just, you know, I think this is how historical fiction works, I guess. I sort of just use these things to tell the story, and it's not a documentary in any way. It's not like I'm saying, you know, and that extends to saying, you know, like I'm not saying, you know, it's not. I'm not trying to, and definitely not succeeding in like conveying the real life experiences of what was going on there. But
agreed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, so you're taking two aspects, putting them together, and then pulling them from into different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
What was it like? You say that you've got a background in prose. What's it like kind of giving up some of that creative element to the artist? Because you've got to think, right, I know what I expect to see, or I know what I want to see, and then the artist comes up and goes, oh yeah, by the way, this page is all green. And you're like, what?
I mean, just taking the page here as an example, one of the things that's really interesting, sort of as someone who's coming into this or came into this from prose, is that like it there's always a little bit of an impulse to write more than you need. Like you can see that I'm sure that there was a draft of this page at some point which had a caption there sort of saying what she was seeing and then sort of explaining what was going on. And I think that the more experience you get in writing comics, the more you sort of learn that, you know, like actually this is better without explaining it. We don't need that. And
show not tell.
Yeah, show not tell. And also like it's a lot, it comes down to like trusting your artist and being like, you know, this person is as invested in telling the story as I am, and like even if they have a slightly different take on it, it's probably, you know, I think it's sort of I come from like the school of thought, or I guess I sort of like subscribe to the school of thought that like nothing that is created is sort of created by one person. So like even if you're writing a prose novel, you know, you get your friends to read it, you get like editors to look at it and stuff. So you've got to sort of let go of your ego a lot when you're creating anything, and rely on other people.
Is that I get where you're coming from. I totally understand that. That might be a more informal element. Fair enough, editors are formal, but having your friends read it and stuff. Because if your friends are anything like my friends, you know, I say to my friends, "Does my bum look big in this?" I'm like, no.
Yeah. I have very mean friends, so
right, there you go. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need some mean friends. I need some tough love.
Yeah, we all need meaner friends. But yeah, no, I think that like, you know, honestly, like I think that you need to be able to sort of say, you know, I think this is better than what you're suggesting. But nearly all the time when you like bounce ideas off someone, they come back with something that is building on what you suggested and, you know, is making it better. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that like presumably you've chosen to enter into a collaboration with this person to begin with, like, and you don't do that with someone who you're going to fundamentally disagree with, you know, like
that's a shout. Yeah, exactly. That's a good call. I never thought of it from that point of view. The fact that, you know, you're doing this thing together. That's good. Do you find as a writer then, do you find it hard to not editorialize or not to be like the mini editor? I would take over Ted is what I'm asking.
Yeah. I think that like I definitely have the impulse to be sort of like, this is, you know, you're killing my baby and stuff, and like try to force people to do exactly what I want. I just like, you've got to sort of, whenever you get sort of notes on something from someone else who is involved in creating whatever it is you're making, you've got to sort of step back, and there's always like an immediate impulse to be like, you know, no, you're wrong and I am right, and you're you know, you're destroying my art, and that is it's the wrong impulse, because generally when people are saying something, they have a point, even if you don't agree with everything they say. And also, like, you know, sometimes I do ask people to change things. Like, I'm working on a story just now for Aces Weekly, which should be coming. I don't know if you know Aces Weekly. It's like this. Yeah, it's like.
I don't have Aces Weekly.
Sorry.
I don't have Aces Weekly. No. What is it? Is it an anthology or is it a?
Yeah. It's like this ongoing anthology stuff. It's published online. It's done by David Lloyd, who does. He's like he's did like some colorist stuff for
Okay, cool.
Possibly art stuff for V for Vendetta, so that's cool.
Wow.
That's
everything, that.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool sort of thing. It's like anyway, I'm going off subject, and I probably just completely miscredited him. So please don't trust anything I say. And if you do listen to this, David, I'm very sorry. But
It's the COVID speaking. It's the COVID.
It's the COVID speaking. I've gone mad with COVID. Yeah, no, David is great, but he gives you notes on things, and he gives you very sort of specific notes on things, and it's always sort of like, it is always good advice, but like it is one of those things where you just need to sort of like step back and be like, yes, this man does know his stuff, so maybe listen to him. Also, the artist I'm working on with that, I just gave her like a bunch of notes on, like, very annoyingly, I like changed the caption, and then I was like, oh, actually, can we change it to this? Oh, actually, can we change it to this? Like 3 times in a row. So people, I put up with people delivering criticisms or editorial notes to me in ways that are not perhaps the most helpful, because I also do that definitely all the time myself. So it's karma, it's karma.
Creative karma's coming to get you. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Whilst we're going to take a little bit of a quick break for one of our adverts, here is an advert for our DC short, The Definitive Crusade. Here we go. There you go, The Definitive Crusade for everything that is DC Comics. Check out the last episode. Batgirls are in there. It was my pick. Just
How many Batgirls?
Both of them.
Good.
all 3 if you can, Barbara.
I don't.
All right, so I found this page. I want to have a quick talk to you about this page. This is early doors. You get an idea that there's something menacing lurking in the old treetops there. What was it like working with Mike Bogdanovich?
Okay, so this is a comic where there is like a lot of horrible stuff happening to human bodies, and I was concerned that like it would be
trauma.
Yeah, trauma, or like, it wouldn't be possible to convey it, as horribly as I was thinking of it. But I think that like this art really sort of like put those fears to bed in a lot of ways. I love the way that Mike sort of makes it look weird in ways that like don't quite make sense, and you sort of stare at it wondering what is going on with the body, and you can't quite see all of it. That is like that. It's the thing about horror, like it's always scarier not to see everything. And
exactly right. That's why the later Alien movies suck, because they see the alien too often.
Yes, too much lighting. It's always too much lighting. Things should be dark and shadowy.
Oh, don't say that.
Yes, no, that is an exaggeration. But, oh no, I spoke too soon. Yeah, no. So I think that like Mike does such a good job of like making everything weird and scary on this page, and it's a good opening image. I also think that like the way he does characters and expressions is good. It's sort of very, I love his inking. It's so like bold and minimalistic when it comes to faces, but it conveys a lot of emotion. And also, like you don't really see much of the landscape here, but like I think the sense of it sort of just being this bleak, barren nothing is there, and it's certainly there throughout the rest of the comic. Yeah.
The character this character at the top, and especially
Mhm.
you mentioned like it has that kind of horror disjointedness. It kind of reminds me, when how possessed people move and the elbows
Yes.
move the wrong way and stuff. And you watch that
Yes.
movie, you're like, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
That's the type of vibe that you
Mm.
get from this sort of page.
Yeah.
I've got to say the colours remind me a lot of Dave Stewart, from the Mike Mignola books.
Oh yes, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. And like I'm pretty sure that was like something that Danielle said that like she was thinking of, like along with the propaganda stuff, the sort of bold reds and like the slightly the muted backgrounds. It's all very like I love that art style so much. Like it's so evocative, I guess. And yeah, Danielle is like she's worked with me on a few other things, like I mentioned, Space Banshee Exorcist, and also she does lettering for something else that I'm doing just now. And every time it's still in pitch stage, or sort of it's in that nebulous place. But she always puts so much consideration to everything she does. Like you can see that here. Like it will be easy for her to hear propaganda and think simple, but she doesn't really. It's all got a lot going on.
What I like about the background colors the most is that it means that the foreground, the characters themselves, really stand out against that. And I think that it becomes you'd think, because there's green and white character in this, as you saw on the trailer in the video, you'd expect her to stand out more. But somehow, as bright as that character looks in the book, I sometimes feel that the colors diminish her to some extent. The kind of that darkness seeps into her rather than her light coming out. It's very, very clever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's one of those things, like colorists are overlooked so often, and it's like, even if people credit the artist, they often like don't credit the colorist, but it's so important and it brings out so much to it. Like, yeah. And it's such a important part of storytelling.
Well, for me, over on Comic Crusaders, I do a lot of the reviews over there, and I make sure that colorists and inkers get their due.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
They get credits in the reviews. They get credits where the credit sections are. Colors get a score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I agree. I agree with what you said earlier. It's like it's a team event.
Absolutely.
It's this culmination of your idea of it matched with someone's art. For me, colors have to prescribe the vibe, the feel, the tone of the book.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do a historical horror book with a pulp element thrown in there, then you don't want someone to give you like bright colors.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, even something that could be cool, like if it was like painterly, that would also sort of, it would convey something different. Whereas this, with its very sort of like bold, characters and everything, is sort of it makes them stand out, especially in the landscapes, like you were saying, which sort of really helps with the storytelling too. Like it's so important, and definitely one of the things that like working for Time Bomb and working on this book have like taught me is that you cannot, you've got to appreciate all the work that everybody does to bring something like this together. It's so important.
So Time Bomb, talk to me about working with them, because there's not a lot of UK publishers out there. I was just having this conversation recently with someone. It's like in the States, you've got Marvel, DC, then you've got Dark Horse, Image, Valiant, you've got IDW, Boom, Ahoy, Vault, all these like comics, Zenoscope, if that's your thing. It's a whole range of different publishers with different styles. And then in the UK, you've got 2000 AD magazine. And that's it.
Yeah.
So
I think there's like an ecosystem of smaller publishers, but like I think this there has been like a rise in that recently. Like you got stuff like the 77 and stuff, sort of like
77 is really cool.
Exactly. Yes. Like, I mean, I think there is sort of a space for smaller stuff, but it's weird really that we don't have more of like a homegrown comics industry that's sort of up there, I guess. But like, I think that the indie comic scene is really cool, and it's an interesting place to be, and I've met a lot of really cool people, and Steve is sort of a big example of that. He is Steve Tanner, the Time Bomb publisher. Sorry, I said before, but you may have forgotten. Yeah. He is, yeah, he's so passionate about comics. Like, he's been running Time Bomb for 15 years. This is actually its 50th anniversary year, and he puts so much like enthusiasm into everything he does, which is, I mean, if you ever meet him at a con, for one thing, he's hard not to meet. He wears very bright jackets. If you ever are at a time, yeah, his jackets are semi-legendary, and rightly so. Yeah, almost sort of neon. But he's very enthusiastic and passionate about making comics, and has sort of been, such a, you look at like Time Bomb, and you're able to see sort of the passion that like comes across in that in a very sincere way. And I sound like I'm just sort of trying to suck up to my boss here, which I am, but also
I don't know who he is, so I can say what I like, right?
Feel free to. I will defend him to the death. Yeah, the Time Bomb actually got its first licensing deal recently, which you may or may not be aware of, with Anderson Entertainment, which is Jerry Anderson, who did like Captain Scarlet and the Thunderbirds and stuff.
Love Captain Scarlet.
Yeah. So Time Bomb's most recent Kickstarter project, and unsurprisingly most successful to date, was an anthology of some of Jerry Anderson's properties. The lesser known ones largely, so New Captain Scarlet, Terrahawks, and Space Precinct.
I love Terrahawks.
Well,
expect the unexpected. Shut up, Dr. Neinstein. How can you do that?
They're in
At the end of the show,
now, and you'll be able to buy it soon. So, get excited.
I used to do the noughts and crosses at the end. Who would win? The Zeroids or the Cuboids? Who would win? Yeah. I'm all about that, man. All about that. Space Precinct, maybe not so much, but
he did. I mean, honestly, it's weird because, like, I watched Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds, like they were on like very early in the morning when I was a kid. But I didn't
say when I watched it. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, honestly, it could be at any point in the last like 60 years. They are so like prolific in British culture in such a unique way. And it's interesting that these, like, these puppet shows are such like a big nostalgia point for everyone, basically. Yeah. But you can, again, I mean, I guess you can see why they're so unique. And yeah, so that's an ongoing thing. And the other big thing is you should be able to find out more about, there's Spectrum. That's the front cover of the anthology. If you click on any of these, you're likely to get the front cover up. So that's an ongoing thing, and hopefully will lead to more work for Time Bomb sort of in a bigger space, because it really deserves to be on a bigger platform. And I think that, creators and sort of publishers like Steve sort of drive the indie industry in a very cool way.
Hey, I recognize these two. What's this all about? I do recognize them too. So what have we had? So you can check out Time Bomb. There you go. At timebombcomics.com. You can also put in Rotten Under the Snow there, and that will come up. You've also got the social medias going on, so you can have a catch up of everything that's new. You've got the Twitter there. Check that out. The website and the Twitter address.
I meant to put in the Facebook there, and I did not manage it, so I apologize. It's on the website. You'll find it. It's fine.
Just click the symbol. It's not rocket science. People have been around these computers a while, right? So it's cool. We'll have one more page from yourself, I think, because I love some of this art. I like how you mentioned it earlier. You've let the art breathe. And when people say to me, "Oh, comics without words are just pictures," wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
Someone has to decide what happens in the picture, and then the artist puts that together, and the beats of the story, the pace of the story, the things that go on. I love this page. I think there's just so much energy in it. This nervous bit at the top. Obviously, the connection there. What does impact have? A bit of an energy drain, some transformation possibly coming down the line. For me, I'm like, this is a perfect comic page. You know,
Oh, thank you.
The reason being is it's this panel here, this bottom one.
Mm.
If you don't want to turn the page to find out what the hell's going on, then you shouldn't be reading comic books. That's pretty much how that works. Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that the way that Mike has done like the sort of the weirdness of it, but we still sort of we know there's something happening that's like vaguely technological because he's sort of using the signifier of like, you know, we all recognize sort of what computer chips look like, and he sort of it looks vaguely like that, even if it's in a very strange way. And that sort of, you know, we then get that idea in our head, even if it's not like conscious, if we're not thinking about it.
Exactly. It sort of sits there just percolating. It's odd because it's yet another contrast for what you were going for. I mean, the horror, the Leningrad stuff, I mean, that's historical. And now you've got computer chips going on. It's like, you know, there's a lot of different things.
Yeah. And again, like it ties back into what you were saying at the start. Like, you know, comics are so good at like spanning genres like this because we don't need an explanation of what computers are. We can just see this and be like, oh, that looks sort of familiar, and then like follow that thread through into, you know, what happens next. It's Mike is a great artist, and Danielle is a great colorist.
And
they
you're
really
a great writer. Come on, keep going.
So, I mean, I don't think I'm allowed to say that about myself.
Why not? Okay, so you want me to say it? It's a fantastic book.
Yes,
it reads brilliantly. You know?
Thank you.
I'm going to lay my cards on the table. I'm going to be super transparent. I'm not a huge horror fan. You know, I sometimes think horror doesn't work in comics because for me, you need like the music and
you want the kind of like experience.
Yeah, exactly. But this book, man, it absolutely is a page turner. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening with the dude in the red. I want to know what's happening to the pilot. I am flipping through this, finding out what's going on like nobody's business. You know, I think it's an absolutely sparkling read. And to cross so many genres and pay respect to each one, they all have equal footing. I think that's an absolute, you know, you've proper like hit the nail on the head on that one, definitely.
Oh, thank you. That's really, really kind of you. Yeah, it's you know, everybody likes to hear nice things said about the things they've made. So thank you. That's very kind.
How does it feel to you to see them when they've been made?
I mean, I'm still like, it's one of my friends actually asked me recently because I was showing her pages from like an upcoming thing I have, and she was saying like, you know, how does it feel to see things like, you know, people draw the things you write? And I was like, it's amazing. Like it's so cool. It's so cool to like see, you know, see the things that you just had in your head on the page, and it makes it, you know, I don't really think that, I mean, I can't imagine that will ever stop being a very cool thing. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not a writer of comic books at all, but I remember the first time I'd done a couple of reviews for Comic Crusaders, and I'd gone into my local comic book shop, and then I was like, I've reviewed that book.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
I've reviewed that book. And the first time I saw one of my quotes on a book.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I was like, whoa, look at that. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, so I can empathize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just seeing someone value what you've done is very cool.
Cool. Well, Kay, it's been absolutely great speaking to you. I appreciate that you've taken the time off your COVID bed to do that. I value what you have done. You've created an absolute gem of a book.
I value you for inviting me on this podcast. It's been great. Thank you.
When you have all your other books ready to go, by all means, give me a shout, and we are more than happy to talk.
I will do. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, guys, there you go. That's a fantastic Katie Cunningham, suffering from COVID, but still living up large for us here on Outside the Panels. Well done. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite podcasts, including the Definitive Crusades, everything DC. You saw the trailer earlier, and of course, my personal favorite, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. You never know. There's a Steph Brown episode in there somewhere. All right. All right, Katie, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And for everyone else, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.